In a land of rolling hills and ancient olive groves, a tale of courage and faith was about to unfold. The sun-baked earth of Israel trembled beneath the feet of two opposing armies, their banners fluttering in the hot desert wind. Peace had reigned in Israel for many years, but as the elders often warned, tranquility is as fleeting as morning dew. Whispers of an impending Philistine attack spread like wildfire through the villages and towns. "The Philistines," gasped a young shepherd, his eyes wide with disbelief. "But we've known peace for so long." As the news traveled, the people of Israel found themselves torn between fear and determination. Some longed to return to their homes, to the comfort of familiar routines. Others steeled themselves for the battle ahead, knowing that the safety of their land hung in the balance. The Philistine army, a sea of glinting armor and sharp spears, marched across the dusty landscape. They halted their advance near a deep valley, the last natural barrier between them and the Israelite forces. Their commanders, adorned in ornate battle gear, surveyed the terrain with calculating eyes. "We make our stand here," one declared, his voice gruff with anticipation. "When the sun rises tomorrow, we will crush them beneath our feet." Across the valley, the Israelite camp bustled with activity. Soldiers sharpened their weapons, adjusted their armor, and whispered prayers to the God of their fathers. At the heart of the camp stood King Saul, Israel's first monarch, his tall frame casting a long shadow in the fading light. As Saul walked among his troops, he was greeted with respectful nods and words of encouragement. Yet beneath his regal exterior, the king's heart was heavy with worry. For among the Philistine ranks was a warrior unlike any other, a giant named Goliath. Goliath was a sight that struck terror into the bravest of hearts. Standing head and shoulders above even the tallest men, he was more mountain than mortal. His armor gleamed in the sun, and his spear was like a weaver's beam. Each morning, as the first light crept over the horizon, Goliath would stride to the front lines, his heavy footsteps echoing across the valley. With a voice that rumbled like thunder, the giant would issue his challenge to the Israelites. "Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." The Israelite soldiers trembled at Goliath's words. "He's no man," one whispered, his voice quavering. "He's a monster sent to destroy us." Even the bravest among them felt their courage waver in the face of such a formidable foe. King Saul, despite his years of battle experience, found himself at a loss. How could he ask any of his men to face such an opponent? The weight of leadership pressed heavily upon him as he pondered their dire situation. In a desperate bid to bolster their forces, Saul sent messengers throughout the land, calling for more soldiers to join the fight. One such messenger arrived in the small town of Bethlehem, where an elderly man named Jesse lived with his 8 sons. The messenger's proclamation rang out in the town square. "Hear me, people of Bethlehem. War is upon us, and King Saul calls for every able-bodied man to take up arms in defense of our land." Among those who heard the call was Jesse's youngest son, David. Unlike his older brothers, who were already serving in Saul's army, David was tasked with tending his father's sheep, but the young shepherd's heart burned with a desire to serve his people and his God. As David prepared to bring supplies to his brothers at the battlefront, little did he know that he was about to step into a story that would be told for generations to come. The shepherd boy, armed with nothing but his faith and a sling, was destined to face the giant that had paralyzed an entire army with fear. The journey to the battlefield was long and arduous. David's sandaled feet kicked up dust as he traversed the winding paths, his pack laden with cheese and bread for his brothers. As he neared the Israelite camp, the sounds of an army preparing for war grew louder. The clang of metal, the whinnying of horses, and the low murmur of men steeling themselves for battle. Upon reaching the camp, David was struck by the tense atmosphere. Soldiers huddled in small groups, their faces etched with worry. He soon found his brothers and delivered the provisions from home. As they talked, the ground suddenly trembled beneath their feet. A hush fell over the camp as Goliath's booming voice once again challenged the Israelites. David watched in disbelief as seasoned warriors cowered before the Philistine champion. "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" David asked, his young voice filled with indignation. Word of David's bold words quickly spread through the camp, eventually reaching the ears of King Saul. Intrigued, the king summoned the young shepherd to his tent. As David stood before Saul, the contrast between them could not have been starker. The battle-hardened king and the fresh-faced youth. "My lord," David said, his eyes shining with determination, "let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Saul looked at David with a mixture of admiration and concern. "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David was undeterred. He recounted how he had protected his father's sheep from lions and bears, striking them down when they attacked the flock. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine," David declared. Moved by the young man's faith and courage, Saul relented. "Go," he said, "and may the Lord be with you." The king offered David his own armor, but the young shepherd found it too cumbersome. Instead, he chose to face Goliath with only his staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. As David walked towards the valley to meet his opponent, whispers of disbelief rippled through the Israelite ranks. Goliath, upon seeing the young man approach, was filled with disdain. "Am I a dog," he roared, "that you come at me with sticks?" The giant cursed David by his gods and promised to feed his flesh to the birds and wild animals. But David stood firm, his voice ringing out clear and strong. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands." As Goliath charged forward, David ran to meet him. With practiced skill, he took a stone from his bag, placed it in his sling, and launched it with all his might. The stone struck Goliath in the forehead, sinking deep into his skull. The giant swayed for a moment, then fell face down on the ground. A stunned silence fell over both armies. Then, as the reality of what had transpired sank in, a great cheer erupted from the Israelite ranks. David had done the impossible. He had slain Goliath. The Philistines, seeing their champion fallen, turned and fled. The Israelites pursued, their courage renewed by the young shepherd's incredible act of bravery and faith. As the dust settled on the battlefield, David stood over the fallen giant, a living testament to the power of faith over fear and the triumph of courage over intimidation. His victory would be celebrated for generations, a reminder that with God, even the most insurmountable odds can be overcome. And so the tale of David and Goliath became more than just a story of battle. It became a timeless lesson of how faith, courage, and determination can help us face the giants in our own lives, no matter how daunting they may seem.